When the world turns quietly against you, it doesn't happen with a single explosive moment. It's subtle, almost invisible, and that's what makes it so painful. You feel it first as a weight in your chest, a tension that builds when they look at you in ways that question your choices, your worth, your very existence. It's not always in what they say. It's in the pauses, the sideways glances, the tiny shakes of the head, the unspoken assumptions they carry about who you are or what you're capable of. And at first, you try to ignore it. You tell yourself it's nothing, that you're imagining things, that maybe you're overreacting. But the quiet judgment, the constant undercurrent of doubt directed at you, never truly goes away. It lingers. It gnaws. It makes you question everything about yourself. You begin to notice patterns in how they interact with you. Conversations that should feel normal suddenly feel loaded with expectation. Every word you say seems to be measured, analyzed, and silently scored. They don't have to confront you. Their disapproval is more effective in its quiet, patient persistence. You start to feel exposed, like the world is watching you stumble, waiting for you to slip up. And the worst part is that you start to believe it. You start to feel as if you are being defined by their perception, that your identity is shaped by the weight of their quiet judgment. The people who don't even speak your name out loud can make the loudest impact on your mind and emotions. The pressure isn't just external. It seeps inside. You feel it when you wake up in the morning, and the first thought that hits you is, how will they see me today? What will they think of my choices? Every decision becomes heavy. Every action feels like it has to carry proof of your worth. You begin to overanalyze simple interactions. You replay moments in your head, imagining their reactions, their silent criticisms. It's exhausting and it's lonely because while everyone else is moving forward, you're stuck inside the trap of anticipating judgment. The energy you spend worrying about them is energy you aren't giving to yourself, to your growth, to the things that actually matter in your life. And yet, the pain of it also creates a kind of awareness. You notice things about yourself that you might have ignored if the world had been easy, if their judgment had been kind or absent. You notice your own triggers, your own insecurities, the exact points where their assumptions pierce through your confidence. You feel anger and resentment, yes, but underneath that is something more dangerous. Self-doubt disguised as logic. You start to question whether you truly belong in the spaces you occupy, whether you are enough, whether your work, your choices, your dreams are valid. It is in this quiet storm that you begin to realize just how conditioned you have been to respond. Every instinct you've had for so long, defending yourself, arguing, explaining, proving, wasn't yours alone. It was a reaction cultivated by years of being measured against the silent expectations of others. They taught you without saying a word that your value was negotiable, that it could be disputed or questioned, that you had to constantly justify your existence. And when you notice this, when the awareness lands fully in your mind. It's almost unbearable. You realize how much of your energy has been hijacked, how much of your time, your focus, your emotional bandwidth has been spent on them rather than yourself. And yet, even in this pressure, there is a strange clarity. When the world turns quietly against you, it forces you to look inward. It forces you to recognize the difference between your worth and their perception of it. It forces you to confront the parts of yourself you've ignored, to face the insecurities that their judgment amplifies. This is where the first seeds of power are planted. Not in their approval, not in their validation, but in the recognition that you are standing in the storm and still breathing, still thinking, still aware. The pain is sharp, yes, but it is also precise. It points directly to where you have been giving away your energy, where you have allowed the quiet influence of others to shape your emotional reality. And as difficult as it is, as heavy as it feels, this is the beginning of understanding something profound, that no one has the power to define you without your consent. That the quiet pressures, the invisible judgments, the constant scrutiny, they are only as real as the value you give them. And when you can see that, even just for a moment, the world doesn't feel quite so oppressive. The storm is still there, but you start to notice your own strength in navigating it. You begin to feel the first flicker of something that doesn't come from outside at all. A quiet, resilient awareness that you are more than what they see, more than what they think, and that the journey you are on is yours alone, not theirs to judge or control. This is where it begins. The awareness that silence and patience may be your allies, that emotional discipline can be your shield, that inner power is quietly waiting to be recognized. And in that moment, as the weight of their quiet opposition presses, you sense the possibility of something greater, a path forward that is defined not by their judgment, but by your own choices, your own resilience, your own respect for yourself. The cost of reacting is heavier than most people realize, and it rarely shows itself in the moment. When they push, provoke, or silently question you, the first instinct is to respond, to speak, to defend, to assert yourself. It feels natural, even necessary. You want to reclaim your power, to make sure they understand that their assumptions are wrong, that you are not weak, that you are capable, that you matter. And so you speak, you argue, you explain. You pour your energy into proving your value, into showing them that they are mistaken. But in doing so, you give them something far more powerful than words. You give them control over your emotional state. Every time you react impulsively, every time you allow their quiet pressure to dictate your response, you surrender a piece of your calm, a piece of your focus, a piece of your inner strength. At first, it might feel like relief. You let out the frustration. You correct the misunderstanding. You set the record straight. But almost immediately, the cost begins to show itself. Your mind races with every word you just said. Did you sound defensive? Did you come across too aggressive? Did you leave something out that will give them ammunition later? And even if the interaction ends there, even if they never respond again, your energy has been drained. You've invested hours of mental and emotional effort into a battle, that often doesn't need to be fought. You've allowed them, silently, to pull you into their narrative of conflict. Reacting has a ripple effect. It doesn't just affect the moment. It shapes everything that follows. You begin to carry the tension forward, unconsciously replaying the interaction, imagining alternative responses, second-guessing your decisions. You notice yourself becoming cautious, defensive, even resentful in other situations because the pattern of reaction has taken root. Your focus shifts from what truly matters to managing perceptions, controlling outcomes, and keeping their judgment at bay. Energy that could be spent creating, building, learning, or healing is instead siphoned off into maintaining appearances and defending yourself. The more you react, the more they notice. Every response feeds the cycle. They see that you care, that their opinion affects you, that your calm can be disrupted. And in seeing that, they push further, whether consciously or unconsciously. The more they test you, the more likely you are to respond, and the more they understand the power they hold over your emotions. It's a quiet trap, one that can feel impossible to escape because instinct is hard to override. Emotional responses are fast and automatic, and they often feel justified, necessary, even righteous. You tell yourself, I had to say something. I had to defend myself. But in reality, every reaction gives them what they want: attention, engagement, and influence over your state of mind. And the cost isn't just external. Every time you react impulsively, you chip away at your own self-respect. You begin to feel that your peace is negotiable, that your inner stability depends on external validation, that your calm can only survive if others behave exactly as you expect. You trade freedom for immediate relief, satisfaction for temporary reassurance, clarity for the illusion of control. You allow yourself to become entangled in their story instead of standing firmly in your own. Over time, this pattern erodes confidence. You feel smaller, more reactive, more dependent on the rhythm of others' judgments and provocations. Even worse, reacting constantly creates a false sense of engagement. It makes you believe you are taking action, that you are asserting control, when in fact you are giving your power away. Your words, your energy, your attention are finite resources, and when you spend them responding to every slight criticism or subtle manipulation, you leave nothing for yourself, your goals, your growth, your emotional well-being. All of these suffer because you are trapped in a cycle that doesn't serve you. This is where the first real insight begins. Noticing the pattern, seeing clearly that the cost of reacting is far greater than the temporary relief it provides. Understanding that silence, restraint, and measured responses are not signs of weakness, but tools of strength. Recognizing that when you stop reacting, you reclaim control over your energy, your focus, and your emotional state. You create space to think clearly, to act intentionally, and to protect the part of yourself that is untouchable by their judgments. The realization is liberating but challenging. It requires honesty and courage. It requires noticing every time you feel the pull to react, and deliberately choosing not to. It demands patience, because Letting go of the instinct to defend yourself goes against years of conditioning. But once you start practicing restraint, the world begins to feel different. The energy that once flowed into proving yourself now flows into building yourself. You start to see that true power doesn't come from being heard immediately, from winning an argument, or from forcing understanding. True power comes from controlling your responses, from holding your peace, from staying rooted in your own values regardless of what they think. And in this, you start to glimpse something transformative, that not reacting is not passivity. It is mastery. It is self-respect made visible, a declaration that your inner state is yours alone, untouchable, unshaken by the quiet pressures and subtle provocations of others. It is the beginning of reclaiming your life, your energy, and your freedom. Reacting may feel natural, but silence, discipline, and measured action are where your true strength begins to emerge. The strength in saying nothing is not obvious at first. It doesn't look like action, it doesn't make noise, and it doesn't demand immediate recognition. In fact, it can feel uncomfortable, even unnatural. When they push, when they provoke, when their expectations weigh on you, the instinct is to respond, to defend, to explain, to fight back. Silence feels like surrender, like letting them win, like allowing their narrative to take root. But the truth is the opposite. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not weakness. Silence is power in its most disciplined, focused form. It is a conscious choice to conserve your energy, to protect your peace, and to act from a place of clarity rather than reaction. When you choose silence, you create space. Space to breathe, to think, to analyze without interference from their opinions or provocations. Every moment you resist the impulse to react, you are reclaiming control over your mind and emotions. You are deciding that your inner world is yours, that your energy is not theirs to manipulate, that your value does not need immediate defense. This is where emotional discipline begins, not in loud declarations or dramatic confrontations, but in the quiet decisions that no one sees. Every time you pause before responding, every time you sit with discomfort instead of escaping it through argument, you are strengthening a muscle that many spend a lifetime ignoring, the muscle of restraint. The power of saying nothing is also strategic. When you stop feeding the cycle, when you stop giving them access to your emotional reactions, their influence over you begins to diminish. They no longer know how to reach you, how to provoke you, how to control your state. Your silence is a boundary, a quiet wall that cannot be scaled by criticism or manipulation. And the beauty of it is that it works even when they don't understand it. You don't have to justify it, explain it, or defend it. The absence of reaction speaks louder than words. It communicates confidence, self-respect, and a steady inner strength that is immune to external pressure. Silence is also a form of observation. When you are not reacting, you can see things clearly. You notice patterns in their behavior. You understand motivations without judgment, and you recognize what truly matters versus what is merely noise. Every conversation, every encounter, every subtle test becomes data rather than drama. You start to understand that their expectations, their criticisms, and their provocations are not facts. They are projections, assumptions, and distractions. And once you see them for what they are, they lose their power to disturb you. You are no longer entangled in their narrative because you are grounded in your own. There is also a paradoxical freedom in silence. The world may expect you to react, to defend, to assert, and when you choose not to, you step outside the patterns that trap most people. Others may become impatient, confused, or frustrated by your quiet, but that is their problem, not yours. Your responsibility is to yourself, to your own growth, to your own emotional well-being. By refusing to engage in every battle, you preserve your strength for the battles that actually matter. You act intentionally rather than impulsively. You invest in long-term gains rather than short-term relief, and you protect the part of yourself that is untouchable by the fleeting opinions of others. The strength in saying nothing is reinforced by patience. True mastery is not about silence in a single moment. It is about the consistent choice to maintain calm, to control your reactions, to act with clarity rather than impulse. This requires awareness, practice, and courage. It means sitting with discomfort, resisting the urge to prove yourself, and trusting that your presence, your actions, and your results will speak for themselves over time. The world may push, test, and judge, but each moment you choose restraint. You reinforce your own authority over your life, and silence is not passive. It is active in ways that are invisible but profound. While others waste energy trying to provoke or manipulate you, you are learning, growing, and preparing. You are observing opportunities, refining your skills, and building a foundation that cannot be shaken by their noise. The quiet moments, the ones where you feel the pull to react but resist, are the moments where your inner power is forged. Every time you let go of the instinct to respond, you step closer to a version of yourself that acts with intention, confidence, and clarity. Eventually, saying nothing becomes a habit, and that habit transforms your identity. You start to see yourself as someone who cannot be swayed by petty judgments, someone who holds their peace as a form of strength, someone who values their own respect over the approval or disapproval of others. The world may continue to press, but your foundation is solid. Your calm is intentional. Your actions are deliberate, and the quiet power you cultivate in the absence of reaction is more compelling than any argument, louder than any outburst, and far more enduring than temporary victories gained through reactive emotion. In this way, silence is not just a tool, it is a lifestyle. It is the conscious choice to prioritize self-respect, emotional discipline, and inner power over the fleeting satisfaction of proving them wrong. It is the first step toward freedom, the foundation of resilience, and the pathway to becoming someone whose presence and results speak louder than any argument ever could. When you embrace the strength in saying nothing, you reclaim your life, your focus, and your peace, and you begin to walk the path of transformation that no one else can define or interrupt. Rising without a sound is a process that few ever notice because it happens quietly, beneath the surface, in ways that are invisible to the outside world. There are no grand announcements, no dramatic declarations, no public displays of victory. Instead, it is a steady, deliberate movement. A life being rebuilt, a mind being strengthened, a sense of self being restored. They may still doubt you. They may still question your choices. They may even try to push you back into old patterns. But by now, you have learned that their opinions are not the measure of your worth, and that true change does not need to be validated externally. The power of rising quietly lies in its subtlety. It is a revolution that takes place internally first, long before anyone else sees the results. At the core of this quiet rise is patience. You have learned to resist the urge to react impulsively, to prove yourself, to justify your every move. Instead, you act intentionally, thoughtfully, and with clarity. Every decision is measured. Every step is considered. Every action is aligned with the life you are creating, not the expectations of others. This is not about playing it safe or hiding your abilities. It is about harnessing your energy for maximum impact, conserving your strength for what truly matters, and allowing your actions to speak louder than any words ever could. They may not notice immediately, but results have a way of revealing themselves over time. And when they do, they carry the weight of undeniable proof. Rising without a sound also requires trust in yourself, in the process, and in the power of consistency. You have chosen silence and discipline over chaos and reaction. And in doing so, you are building a foundation that is unshakable. Each quiet decision, each moment of restraint, each act of self-respect compounds over time, creating momentum that cannot be interrupted by their judgment or interference. It is a slow, methodical accumulation of strength, like water wearing down stone, like seeds growing roots deep enough to withstand storms. You are no longer defined by fleeting criticism or the pressure of external expectations. You are defined by your own choices, your own integrity, and your commitment to becoming the person you are meant to be. And there is a subtle beauty in this process. It teaches you that visibility is not validation. You do not need applause, acknowledgement, or recognition to know that you are moving forward. You learn to measure success in quiet moments of personal growth, in the ability to maintain composure under pressure, in the consistency of your efforts, even when no one is watching. The noise of the world may continue, but it no longer dictates your rhythm. You have stepped into a space where your inner calm, discipline, and resilience are your guideposts, and where your progress is determined by your standards, not theirs. Rising without a sound also transforms your relationships with others. When you no longer react to provocation, when you maintain your calm in the face of pressure, people begin to see you differently. Not because you announce it, but because your presence communicates something far more powerful than words. You signal that you are not easily swayed, that you value your peace, that your actions are intentional and grounded in self-respect. Even those who once doubted you can sense the shift. They notice the change in energy, the steadiness of your composure, the quiet confidence that radiates without effort. And in that, you create influence not through argument or confrontation, but through the simple, undeniable force of disciplined action. The quiet rise is also deeply liberating. It frees you from the need for constant approval, from the burden of defending yourself at every turn, from the trap of proving your worth to people who may never understand. You begin to experience life on your terms, guided by your own values, priorities, and goals. The anxiety that once came from anticipating judgment diminishes, replaced by clarity and focus. You no longer expend energy on distractions, conflicts, or validation. Your attention is directed entirely toward building the life you want, toward becoming the version of yourself that you respect and admire. And as you continue this process, something profound happens. Your actions begin to speak for themselves. Achievements accumulate, results become visible, and the transformation that was once invisible starts to manifest in ways that cannot be ignored, but it is never loud or boastful. You do not need to shout about what you have accomplished, because the evidence of your growth is self-evident. Your life becomes the message. The discipline, the restraint, the patience, the quiet strength. It all shows up naturally, effortlessly, and all shows up naturally. Others may notice, but they no longer control the story. You do. Rising without a sound is ultimately about reclaiming ownership of your life. It is about moving forward with intention, clarity, and self-respect. It is about understanding that true power is measured not by the noise you make, but by the consistency of your actions, the steadiness of your mind, and the integrity of your character. And in that quiet, deliberate rise, you discover something essential, that you are capable of far more than you ever imagined, that your inner strength is limitless, and that the life you are creating belongs entirely to you.